Live. I'll. All right. So before I begin, I just want to check. Mute yourself and say if my voice is audible. Before. All right. So just check audio. Voice is audible, so we can go ahead with all of you and let's chant the beautiful song Jayara. There might be a slant. Try to follow the song. That will be really very nice. So let's begin. Jai Sankirtan Mahayagna ki Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari
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 Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana
Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana 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 Vraja Jana Ranjana
Madhava Kunjaridhari Yashodanandana Vrajajanarandana Yashodanandana Vrajajanarandana Yashodanandana Vrajajanarandana Yashodanandana Vrajajanarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Sankirtan Mahayagna ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. All right, Hare Krishna, welcome back all of you. So I have a wonderful audience here live as well as on StreamYard and on YouTube. So I welcome each one of you for today's session. And we are going to start a brand new chapter today. So before we begin, let's start with the invocation prayers like we generally do. So let's begin with the invocation prayers. All right, so we dedicate this session to His Divine Grace, His Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is the founder Acharya of ISKCON. So please join your palms and kindly repeat after me the pranam mantras. So it will be displayed on the screen. So all of you please join with me. Let's begin with the pranam mantras. Namo Vishnupadaya
Namo Vishnupadaya
Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale
Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale
Srimate Bhaktivedanta
Srimate Bhaktivedanta
Swamin Niti Namine
Swamin Niti Namine
Namaste Saraswate Deve
Namaste Saraswate Deve
Gauravani Pracharine
Gauravani Pracharine
Nirvishesha Shunyavadi
Nirvishesha Sunyavadi
Ashyat Deshatarine
Paschat Desatarine
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Prabhu Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhara
Shri Advaita Gadadhara
Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Namo Mahavadanyaya
Namo Mahavadanyaya
Krishna Prema Pradayate
Krishna Prema Padayate
Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya
Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya
Namne Gaura Tushe Namaha
Namne Gaura Dvishe Namaha
Namo Brahmanya Devaya
Namo Brahmanya Devaya
Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha
Go Brahmanitaya Cha
Jagadhitaya Krishnaya
Jagatithaya Krishnaya
Govindaya Namo Namaha
Govindaya Namo Namaha
He Krishna Karuna Karuna Sindhu
हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु
Dinabandhu Jagatpate
दीनबन्धो जगत्पते
Gopesha Gopika Kanta
गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता
Radha Kanta Namostute
राधा कान्त नमोस्तुते
Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi
तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी
Radhe Vrindavaneshwari
राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी
Rishabhanu Sute Devi
वृषभानुसुते देवी
Pranamami Hari Priye
प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये
Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha
वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च
Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha
कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च
Patitanam Pavanebhyo
पतितनां पावनेभ्यो
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha
वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा
Krishna Hare Hare
कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे हरे
Hare Rama
हरे राम
Rama Rama Hare Hare
राम राम हरे हरे
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Hare Krishna. So, welcome all of you for the 49th session of the Bhagavad Gita study circle. And in the last 1.5 years and little more, I guess we have covered the 4 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita systematically. And today we are starting a brand new chapter, that is chapter 5. So this is a very interesting chapter again. So it is not as long as the previous chapters. It is having just 29 verses. So that way we can finish this chapter a little early compared to others. But we have some very nice thing going on here. So this particular words or this particular chapter is described as again a yoga. So Prabhupada says this is karma yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. So this chapter is also called as karma sannyasa yoga. So chapter 5 is called as karma sannyasa yoga. So we will understand more about this karma sannyasa yoga. Karma means to perform action. Sannyasa means that which we have to give up. And what is that we have to give up? The results. And then yoga means connection with the Lord. So here, very beautifully, Krishna is going to explain that how action has to be performed, and that action should ultimately connect you to Krishna. So this is the essence of this chapter. So like we have discussed in the previous chapters, let's have a quick recap. We have seen that how Arjuna was tormented with emotions because he was seeing his own grandfather, he was seeing his guru, he was seeing all his brothers and other relatives who were so dear to him. Of course, not everybody was dear to him because his brothers were very envious of him. So now he was very bewildered whether as to fight or not fight. And in that very distressed condition, he kept his Gandiva bow down and he said, I don't know what to do. Now, very interestingly, when he kept his bow down, in the second chapter, 7th verse, very beautifully, Arjuna, he surrenders to Krishna. He says that he accepts Krishna as the spiritual master. Karpanya dosho pahata swabhavaha prichami tvam dharma sammuda chetaha यश्रेयस्या निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेहं शादिमां त्वां प्रपन्नम. Very nice. You see, in the very first, in the 7th verse, he says, Yashreyasya nishchitam bruhi tanme. So he's saying, Shreya, what is Shreya for me? I have already described what is the difference between Shreyas and Preyas. So Shreyas is permanent happiness, Preyas is temporary happiness. So Arjuna is interested in permanent happiness. So, yes, Shreya, you tell me what is Shreya for me? And he's saying, Nishchitam Bruhitame. You give me definite answers, O Krishna. And that is what Krishna started explaining about the soul and many other beautiful things. But there is another thing that we should know. After the second chapter, Arjuna had another very similar question, and there also he had a question of chapter 3 in Karma Yoga, and that is the very second shloka where Arjuna is asking a very similar question to Krishna, and it appears as if it's like deja vu, the kind of question that he's asking. He's saying that in the verse number 2 of chapter 3, Vyamishrena Vakyena Buddhim Mohayasi Vame Tad Ekam Vadanishchitya Yena Shreyoham Apnuyam. You see, again he's saying, Ekam Vadanishchitya. You tell me one thing which is very definite. Give me one definite answer. And he's saying, Yena Shreyoham Apnuyam. He's saying again, you tell me that one thing which is Shreya for me, that which is for my permanent happiness and for my permanent good. So Arjuna's questions, if you see, they have this consistency. He's always asking about Shreya and he's also asking Nishchitam, give me definite answer. Now, Krishna has tried his best. Krishna is trying his best. He is always trying to give the best answers. And that is why he explained very beautifully in the third chapter the whole Karma Yoga. He explained to him how yajna is very important. And then in the fourth chapter, he explained further that how yajna has to be performed, but what is the ultimate benefit of yajna and how this karma ultimately leads to jnana, and developing transcendental knowledge makes one truly happy. So all these things have been explained by Krishna to Arjuna, but looks like Arjuna is still not satisfied, and that is why we have to go to the chapter 5 now, because Arjuna, after listening to this particular understanding, that concepts that Krishna has shared, he still has further doubts. And let's try to understand why this is so. So in chapter number 5 now, let's see what Arjuna is going to ask and why Arjuna is asking this particular question. So I call upon Uma Kumar, so you can unmute yourself and let's chant this verse number 1, the 5th chapter, first verse. So you can unmute yourself and let's chant this very interesting shloka. Please repeat. Arjuna Uvacha
Arjuna Uvacha
Sanyasam Karmanam Krishna
Sanyasam Karma Krishna
Punaryogam Cha Samshasi
Punaryogam Cha Samsasi
Yashreya Etayorekam
Yachsreyetarikam Yam
Tanme Bruhi Sunishitam.
Tanme Bruhi Sunichitam.
Wonderful. So please read the translation by yourself.
Arjuna said, O Krishna, first of all, you asked me to renounce work, and then again you recommended work with devotion. Now you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial.
Thank you. Thank you, Uma Kumar.
Hare Krishna Guruji.
Hare Krishna. So you see here that confusion of Arjuna is very evident. So here he's asking, oh Krishna, if first of all you ask me to renounce everything, you give up work, and then you also mentioned about you have to work in devotion. So how is this possible? Because work means, I thought I have to renounce everything. Renounce means there is no work. But now you're telling that you have to work with devotion. So these two things are contradictory. And you see the very last verse of the previous chapter, the fourth chapter, 42nd word, what did Krishna say? It's very clear. Krishna is saying, Atishtatishta Bharata. Oh, get up, rise now. Arjuna, fight. That was the instruction. So after that instruction, Arjuna is bewildered. So what should I do again? Now, although Krishna has explained very nicely in the third and fourth chapter, This particular question of Arjuna is because he is attached to his own opinion still. He still has that strong intention to not fight. And as long as person is attached to his own intentions and his own desires, no matter who speaks, even Krishna comes and speaks knowledge to us, we will not be able to accept it, right? And that confusion will remain. So that is why here that confusion is evident, and he's asking that what should I do now? What am I supposed to do, O Krishna? Whether should I do karma yoga, whether should I do karma, or should I do karma in devotion with knowledge, is what he's asking. So there is a confusion here. But again, if you carefully see in this particular shloka, Arjuna is again asking, Yash Shreya ye manyam. He's asking, what is Shreya for me? Yet Shreyo etayor ekam. Again, you tell me, what is that one good thing? You have explained two things now. You explain one good thing. What is that ultimate thing that will give me happiness? What is that Shreya for me? Tanme bruhi sunishchitam. He used to say nishchitam, nishchitam. Here he has added a prefix, sunishchitam. You have to, most certainly, you tell me what is good for me. So that is what Arjuna has asked here. And you should know, when this particular shloka is explained, it is very important to understand when Krishna is saying sannyasam karmanam Krishna. When Arjuna is saying sannyasam karmanam Krishna, sannyasam means to give up. So many people, when they read this shloka, they understand that sannyasam karmanam, that means I have to give away all the work. I should just sit idle. So that is the understanding people get, that sannyasam means to give up all types of work. But now, all the devotees, please understand, can we really give up work? Working cannot be given up. Can you give me one reason why we cannot stop working? Why we cannot, at least one reason, why we cannot stop working? You can also unmute yourself and speak. Why is that one, what is that one reason why we cannot stop working? We all are active, right? So why we cannot stop working? But here, this sannyasam karmana, we cannot give up work. Why is that so? Do you have any answers? Let me see some comments here on YouTube also. Okay, just in case. So my dear listeners here on YouTube, you can also comment and let me know, why can we not stop from working? Any reason? I have some live audience also. They can say if they have any answer.
Working is basic instinct for survival. Like we can't earn, we can't get food.
Okay.
Can't survive without working.
Here I get one answer from Girishma, and that she says that it's a basic instinct to work. It's a hint, right? So Hina Mataji is saying, earn and living. So we have to eat, we have to do so many activities, right? But where is this tendency coming from? You see, we are spirit souls. So spirit soul is always active. You cannot make a spirit soul inactive. This body can sleep. It can become inactive for a few hours. It can die and become inactive. But the spirit soul is always active. It is always wanting for some activity. It needs work. That is from the spiritual perspective. Even from the material perspective, we are having this material body, and this material body is influenced by the three modes, and one of the mode is passion, rajoguna. We are constantly influenced, even at the material level, by rajoguna. So this rajoguna makes us work. It cannot actually make us sleep all the time or become inactive all the time. So materially and spiritually, we are always active. We are active. So renouncing work is very artificial. You cannot give up work. Simply if somebody says, I will sit idle and I will simply watch TV, I'll just eat. No, it's not going to happen. Or if somebody says, I will go to the forest and I'll sit there in the forest idle, and no, you may sit idle there physically, but your mind is constantly active. We cannot stop working. So that is why Krishna is also not recommending this to Arjuna, because Arjuna is a Kshatriya, and if he goes to the forest and sits idle there on meditation, doing meditation, he cannot do that because his nature is to fight. So artificially repressing the tendency to action, the tendency to perform work is going to be a big problem for us. It is very unnatural to the soul because soul is always active. So that is the reason we should clearly understand that this particular thing, that sannyasam karmanam, we cannot give up work, so we should not give up. That is not the injunctions of Bhagavad Gita. Many people say that, okay, Bhagavad Gita means I should simply go and meditate. No, it's not the thing. You have to do your prescribed duties as mentioned, right? But what is that we have to do sannyasa? Sannyasa karmana means not that we have to give up the work, but when we work, there is a result. The outcome of that work is a result, that fruit of action. Now, that fruit of action, when you get, it comes with its own attachment, raga and dvesha. When there is a fruit, either you will be attached to that fruit or you will hate that fruit. So, sannyasa means we are actually supposed to give up that raga and dvesha for the result. That sannyasa should be done. Not that we have to stop working. We have to stop getting attached, either positively or negatively, to the fruits of our actions. That is most important here. So here Arjuna, he's asking this question. Why? Because what is his question? Should I do karma or should I just gain transcendental knowledge and become idle? So now he's hoping that Krishna will tell him that you just follow the path of jnana, and by following the path of jnana, you don't have to fight. And that's exactly what Arjuna wants. So he's hoping that Krishna will tell the path of jnana is most important. And then with that reason, Arjuna will say, okay, you are saying jnana is important, then why should I fight? Right? So he doesn't want to fight, so he's trying this way or that way, trying to trick Krishna, but nobody can trick Krishna, he is the most intelligent. So that's why Krishna will give a very befitting answer to Arjuna, a very perfect answer to this particular question. So Arjuna has asked two things now. What is good, karma yoga, or should I give up all the work, or should I work with devotion? So this is the question that Arjuna has asked. So let's see what Krishna will reply. So Dev, unmute yourself and let's see what Krishna has to say. Okay, Dev is not here. So let's call Hina Mataji, and Hina Mataji can unmute herself and we can chant the next shloka. It's a very interesting shloka. So let me display that. Okay. So I hope the screen is visible to you, Mataji. So this is the second word. So let's chant this very interesting shloka, verse number 2. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Sannyasa Karma Yogasya.
Sannyasa Karma Yogascha.
Nishreyasa Karau Ubhau.
Nishreyasa Karau Ubhau.
Tayostu Karma Sannyasat.
Tayostu Karma Sannyasat.
Karma Yogo Vishishyate.
Karma Yogo Vishishyate.
Wonderful. So please read the translation.
The Blessed Lord said, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of works.
Good. Thank you so much, Mataji. So here, Krishna is explaining very beautifully a very nice answer Krishna, a definite answer Krishna has given. So he says that the blessed Lord said, what did he say? The renunciation of work and work in devotion. Actually, both of them are good, but, oh dear Arjuna, working in devotional service is better than renunciation of work. So there is a slight comparative analysis here. So Krishna is saying that both are actually going to lead you to the ultimate goal. So giving up karma, that is renouncing the fruits of action, and then working with devotion, both ultimately have a uniform goal. There is a commonality in the goal, but there is diversity in the process. So both the processes have different varieties. There is diversity there, but ultimate goal is the same. So whether you follow a karma yoga and become a karma yogi, or you actually follow the path of devotion, the ultimate goal is the same. So the karma yogi, how will he attain that supreme goal is explained in the fifth chapter, because third chapter explained how to do or how to perform karma yoga, but in this fifth chapter Krishna will explain that how we need to attain perfection in karma yoga. If you follow karma, how do I attain that perfection? That is what is explained in chapter 5, because third chapter deals only with the how to perform karma yoga, but to perfect karma yoga we have to understand chapter 5, right? So this is why Krishna is saying here both of them are same, but there is diversity in the way they are being performed. Now it doesn't mean, please understand very clearly, many people say that yatomat tatopat, which means that no matter what path you follow, you will ultimately reach the same goal. Please do not misunderstand this to that, because here Krishna is talking only about these two things, because Arjuna has was asked the two questions: whether should I give up work, do karma yoga, or should I work with devotion? This is the question. So Krishna is very specifically talking about only these two processes. It doesn't mean that okay, every path will lead to the same God, same ultimate goal. No, that is not true. Only what is being authorized in the Shastras, by the scriptures, by the Acharyas, that is what will lead us to the supreme goal. Not that any Tom, Dick, and Harry will come and they will say that this path will also lead you to the ultimate goal, the spiritual goal. Today, because even a footballer will say that, oh, I am a spiritual being and playing football itself is a spiritual activity for me. Now, there are people like that. Some people say that, oh, listening to music is very spiritual for me, and I gain spirituality through music. So this is not true, and this is not going to help them. Ultimately they are getting cheated by their own mind, because every subject is very specific. See, when we are dealing with the physical laws of nature, that particular subject is called physics. When you deal with chemicals, it is called chemistry. When you deal with all the heavenly bodies, then it is called astronomy. When you deal with electrons, it is called electronics or electricity, whatever, electrical engineering, whatever you say, right? So similarly, when we are talking about spirituality, then it has to deal with the spirit and God. Now, people are talking about spirituality without the understanding of the spirit and without understanding of the God. So, when there is no connection with the spirit soul, and God, it is not called as spirituality. So, that is why we should not get cheated by so many so called spiritual processes that are coming like mushrooms, right? So, let's not get bewildered. Krishna is very specifically saying that only these two things are mentioned here. So anything authorized by the scriptures, that is what will lead us to the ultimate goal and not any other path. So this is very, very important. So why both are important? Krishna is explaining this because as spiritual practitioners, especially in Krishna consciousness, we are supposed to work with devotion. Now, both are important. You see, when you construct a house, now, while constructing a house, you need a floor and you need a roof. You cannot have a house without the floor. Have you seen any house like that? Okay, I just have the roof, I don't have the floor. You cannot even enter the house without the floor. It's simply hanging in the air. Or you cannot call a house without a roof. You have a floor, but you don't have the roof. Then it is not complete. So, similarly, your spiritual practice will become complete only when you have both work and devotion. So that is why Krishna is explaining in this fifth chapter that both your work is important and your devotion is important. You need to have both the floor and the roof of your spiritual house, this spiritual process. So that is why this is very, very important. We cannot give up these things. Now, there is another very nice way to understand the analogy of a farmer. You see, when a farmer, what does he do? When he wants to produce something, the first thing that he does is in the field, he uproots all the different weeds. Because if there are weeds, then there is a lot of problem. They will not help in the growth of the crop. So he has to first uproot all the weeds, and then he will till the soil, and then finally he will sow the seed and nurture it. So similarly, in the field of our mind, we need to actually uproot all the weeds. What are those weeds? The weeds are this lust, greed, anger, and envy. So all these weeds which are there in the field of mind have to be uprooted. Now that is sannyasa, uprooting process, uprooting all the negative things is sannyasa. You have to give up all these things, these weeds in your mind. And then, after uprooting all these negative weeds from the mind, the farmer cannot say that, okay, I have done all these things, now I will get the produce. No, he has to do the positive action. He has to perform the karma of sowing the seeds. So that is why when we uproot the weeds, get rid of all these negative things, we also have to sow the seed of positive karma. That is why karma and devotion both are required. So, karma sannyasa means this is what it means: uproot the raga and dvesha and all these negative elements, the weeds from our mind, the field of mind, and then at the same time, put nice spiritual activities into that mind so that it becomes sannyasa yoga. Karma Sannyasa Yoga. You see, so there is a very nice connection. This is a wonderful process. Only when we follow this process of uprooting and sowing the seed properly, we will get wonderful results, the spiritual results, the ultimate goal of life, that is to attain Krishna. So, this is why the explanation of this particular chapter will give us more details as to how do I perform Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Ultimately, I have to get connected with Krishna, right? So, this is one nice thing that Krishna is explained here, and he says that both are important, but working in devotion is more important because it is just like the action of the farmer. So you all have to become farmers. You have to become farmers. What do I mean, farmers? Farmers of your own spiritual life. So start identifying all the weeds, take them out, which is sannyasa, and then perform positive actions. So that way you will actually become very wonderful spiritually, and then you will attain the ultimate goal. Right? So this is what Krishna has explained here, and it's a very nice thing. Prabhupada also says that how sometimes thereby continuing material bondage perpetually. So Krishna is Prabhupada in the purport is explaining that as long as one is engaged in activities aimed at improving the bodies, constantly improving the bodies, thereby continuing material bondage perpetually. So more we work for our bodies, the more we become entangled. That we will explain more in detail in the next words. So let's see. We have Achyutanji, you can unmute yourself and let's chant the verse number 3. So verse number 3, that is another very nice shloka. So let's chant this and let's try to understand this. So, Gneyasya Nitya Sannyasi
ज्ञेयस्य नित्यसन्न्यासी
Yo na dveshti na kankshati
यो न द्वेष्टि न काञ्चति
Nirdvando hi mahabaho
निर्द्वन्द्वो हि महाबाहो
Sukham bandhat pramuchyate.
सुखं बन्धात् प्रमुच्यते.
Wonderful. Please read the translation.
One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activity is known to be always renounced. Such a person, liberated from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated. O mighty armed Arjuna. Hare Krishna.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Achyutanji. So, again, a very interesting shloka, and let's dive a little deeper into this particular shloka. So, here, dear devotees, it is said that Gneyasya Nitya Sannyasi. So, there are some qualities of a sannyasi are explained. Like in the previous shloka, Prabhupada, Krishna explained that what is sannyasa karmanaha, both are good. So now he's explaining or giving some details about a person who actually follows these things. So Who is this? Yona dveshti na kankshati. So, in this shloka, we can understand that Krishna actually is talking about it is renunciation in action. It is not renunciation of action. Please understand. You have to renounce in action. You're performing action, but you have to renounce certain things, especially the results and attachment to the results. It is not that renunciation of action. That not that you have to renounce the work. Now, yona dveshtina kankshati. So, like I told you earlier, that activity is very natural to us. We cannot stop from performing action. So we have to work. And this type of work has to actually unbind us. It has to make us unattached. So here Krishna is saying, who is that person who will become unattached? Na dveshti, na kankshati. So this type of sannyasa within us has to emerge. What is that sannyasa? Na dveshti, na kankshati. We are not envious of anyone and we are not desiring all the time. Constant hankering is not there. So such a person can be called as Nitya Sannyasi. Now this kind of sannyasa is not just meant for men. Even if you are a woman, if you are a boy, you are a girl, you are a brahmachari, you are a grahastha, everyone can actually follow this. You all can become Nitya Sannyasis, because what Krishna is saying, na dveshti, na kankshati. So a man can become non-envious, a woman can also become non-envious, a brahmachari can become non-envious, a grahastha can become non-envious. You see? So each and every one can become a Nitya Sannyasi. It is very, very much possible. But we are not able to actually become Nitya Sannyasis because we are attached. Attachment is there. Attachment to things, attachment to people, constant attachment is there to so many things, right? You see, most of the time, the strongest attachments are the family members, especially the close family members, is what causes the strongest attachment. But any person on the deathbed, when at the point of death, all the family members are nothing but a list of names. I repeat that again. At the point of death, all the family members will just become a list of names for that person. It's very, very difficult. It's a little harsh also, right? To say something like this. But you see, these attachments are so strong. We don't want to give attachment. By the way, how does this attachment come about? What is this attachment all about? Why are we not able to do this sannyasa? Why it is so difficult to give up things or give up those actions or give up the fruits for the action? Why is that so difficult? Why is that strong attachment bondage? Where is that attachment coming from? Have you analyzed how is the attachment forming? You please understand. Now, so many of you are listening to this. Now, I am attached to my parents. Okay? You are attached to your parents. I am not attached to your parents, and you are not attached to my parents. What is the difference now? Why is there no attachment? Because they are also persons, they are also human beings, but I am not attached to them, and you are not attached to my parents. Why is that attachment not coming? Because you see, attachment comes when I see that I am getting something from that person, either happiness, joy. His presence makes me feel good and happy. And that is how attachment comes. Attachment actually comes when I am getting something from that person. And moment I get something from that person, and that person is fulfilling my sensual pleasures, my sense objects, he's fulfilling my sense desires, that is when attachment comes. That causes attachment come. That actually brings about attachment within us for that person, because I am getting something from that person. Please analyze this carefully. But a person who does not satisfy my senses, who doesn't help in my sense gratification, then I hate that person. You see, dvesha will come. Raga is attachment, dvesha is positive, negative attachment. So, attachment, there is positive attachment, but hatred is negative attachment. That is also attachment, because when you hate a person, you're constantly thinking, how should I give this person a trouble? How should I trouble this person nicely? How should I give him more pain and sorrow? So that is negative attachment, but you're also having attachment. So that is negative attachment. So attachment is coming from where? It is actually coming from my sense gratification. So based on my sense gratification, I define whether I love this person or I hate this person, whether I'm attached to this person or I'm not attached to this person. You see? So it's very complex. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there are a few very interesting things which I want to explain to you, all of you. I found this verse, so I just wanted to share with this, all of you. Tam durjayam shatrum masayya vegam aruntudam tanna vijitya kechit kurvanti asad vigraham atra marte mitrani udasina ripun vimudaha. So it says that, very beautiful sloka. It is said that failing to conquer this irrepressible enemy, the mind, whose urges are intolerable and who torments the heart, many people are completely bewildered and create useless quarrel with others. Thus, they conclude that other people are either their friends, their enemies, or parties indifferent to them. You see, so there are urges, the intolerable urges within our mind, within our heart. And when these urges are unfulfilled by certain people, that is when I call a certain person as a person whom I love or a person whom I hate. So it's all surrounding with my own sense pleasure. It is centered around my pleasure. So that is what is happening, dear devotees. So we should know this attachment is coming from where? It is coming from my sense gratification. And that is why sannyasa, giving up this, is very difficult. Now, if we have to become nitya sannyasi, like Krishna is saying in this word, nitya sannyasi, it is not so easy. Although it looks very simple. Oh, na dveshtina kankshati. Krishna is saying just give up envy. Dvesha is there. Okay, I'll not become envious of anyone. No, it's not so easy. I will not desire anything. No, it's not so easy. Why? Because this raga and dvesha are extremely powerful. Not so easy to give up. You see? So, what is happening is we are somehow having positive attachment or negative attachment. So, this has to be given up. And unless we don't give up these things, our relationships with people will mostly fluctuate, because sometimes we are happy with the same person, we are distressed with the same person. It's very difficult because we are constantly dealing with our own sense gratification. And that's why a friend becomes an enemy becomes a friend in this material world. How we see this happening in this world? The reason is this. The core reason why a friend becomes an enemy becomes a friend, is all dependent, is centered at the core value, that is my sense gratification. You see, not so easy to give up, right? Just like now, every now and then we update our mobile apps, right? So we need to update our mind. And when we update our mind with this knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, then you can make a proper list of all the people that you love and then all the people that you hate. So why don't you take this activity for this week, that you make a list of all the people that you love and then all the people that you hate, and you compare. And don't be dishonest. You can be honest with yourself. And then if you really feel like sharing it with me, you can share it with me and I will go through it. So I hope that I will not be in the list of the person that you hate, but you can still list it. So you see, this is what it is. It's very interesting to understand these core principles and nicely see what Krishna is saying. So you see the difference, you see that strong things, what Krishna is explaining here. Not so easy to give up these things. I have few more things. Another shloka. Let me see if I have. Let me quickly go and check if that is also there. Ha. All right. There's another very nice shloka which I want to chant for all of you. It is again from Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 7th chapter and 42nd verse. So here it is said, Sukhaya dukkha mokshaya sankalpa iha karminah sadapnoti iha dukkham sadapnotihaya dukkham anihaya sukhavratah, which means in this material world, every materialist desires to achieve happiness and diminish his distress, and therefore he acts accordingly. Actually, however, one is happy as long as one does not endeavor for happiness. As soon as one begins his activities for happiness, his conditions for distress begin. So, my dear devotees, please understand this very nice shloka from the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is very nicely stating here, actually, that whenever you endeavor for happiness, that is when you will not get happiness. You see that word, the straight statement here? If one is happy, as long as one does not endeavor for happiness. But if you start endeavoring for happiness, then you will not become happy. Why is that so? Because endeavor for happiness. Let's take this word, endeavor for happiness. If you endeavor for happiness, which means that right now, at this moment, you're not happy. Because you're not happy, you are endeavoring to become happy. Right? So, all these materialistic people are constantly thinking of happiness, but right now they are not experiencing happiness. They're endeavoring for happiness. And that is a trap. When you are constantly endeavoring to become happy, that is a trap. You will never become happy. So that is why Krishna is saying, na kankshati. As long as you're constantly desiring that, oh, this will give me happiness, that will give me happiness, this bungalow, this car, this wife, this girlfriend, that boyfriend, this mobile, that gadget, nothing will give us happiness because you're constantly hankering, you're endeavoring for happiness. And as long as you are pursuing happiness, the happiness will run away from you. Because you yourself are taking that stand right now that you're not happy, and that's why you are endeavor for happiness. So don't think of all the different situations that will make you happy. Instead, you see that how the current situation itself can make you happy. You can be happy with knowledge. When you have this wonderful knowledge with you, every moment can become happy. You can make it happy. That's why transcendental knowledge is required. And that is possible when you become a Nitya Sannyasi. If you want to enjoy, get happiness moment after moment after moment, then you should learn this art of becoming a Nitya Sannyasi. You see? Such a powerful thing it is. It's not an ordinary thing. And very nice, another shloka of Srimad Bhagavatam, which says that how you can become free from anxiety. Who are the two kinds of people who can become free from anxiety? Because if you're endeavoring for happiness, that endeavor itself will put you in anxiety. Now, who are the people who are not in anxiety? Srimad Bhagavatam explains that. It says, Dvav iva chintaya muktau paramananda aplutau yo vimugdo jado balo yo gunebhya param gataha. So, you see, this is a very nice shloka, and it translation goes like this. In this world, two types of people are free from all anxiety and merged in great happiness. So who are those two types of people? One who is a retarded and childish fool, and one who has approached the Supreme Lord, who is beyond the three modes of material nature. So this is very interesting. So here this shloka is explaining who are the two types of people who will be actually happy. Who are the two people who will be happy and free from anxiety? One is a retarded fool. It is said there, yo vimugdo jado balaha. So jado bala means He's a retarded fool. Is he doesn't have any aspirations. You see, most of these people who are mentally retarded, they are not planning, oh, I'll do this and I'll become happy, I'll do that and become happy. They are just foolish. They don't really have an anxiety. But that doesn't mean those foolish people, retarded people, are equivalent to the great transcendentalists, the devotees. There is a lot of difference. A transcendentalist, a devotee, he takes pleasure in the Supreme Lord. But whereas the fool, he's just confused. He has no anxiety for that matter. He doesn't think of where will my next meal come, what will happen to me next, whether will I take bath, water will come, electricity will go, internet will not work, laptop is slow. Nothing. He's having no such anxieties. He's just leading a blind life. Whatever comes to on its own accord, he'll enjoy and he'll go. He has no anxiety. But anybody who falls between these two categories, a retarded fool and a transcendentalist, they are all filled with anxiety. Anybody who falls in between these two categories is filled with anxiety, is full of anxiety. Why? Because they are endeavoring for happiness. A transcendental is not endeavoring for happiness because he's connected with the Supreme Lord. And foolish, retarded person, he is totally disconnected from the material things, and he has no aspirations and desires. And that is why even he's free from anxiety. But people who are in between, who are endeavoring for happiness, are the one who will be full with anxiety. You see? So that is why we have to become Nitya Sannyasi. So very important, my dear devotees. These are not some ordinary shlokas. These are not some simple things that we can neglect. We have to understand all these things in detail. Very powerful shlokas these are. So here Krishna is saying that na yona dveshti na kankshati, and then he's saying nirdvanvo hi mahabaho, nirdvanvo. So this whole world is actually dvandva. It is dual nature, heat, cold, hot, right? There is winter, there is summer. There is happiness, there is distress. There is night, there is day. There is black, there is white. There is constantly, there is duality in this material world. We are trapped in this duality. So Krishna is saying, nirdvandvo. You have to become nirdvandvaha. How do I become nirdvandvaha? How do I become free from this duality? But it is possible only if you are detached. If you are attached to material things and material people, you will be in duality. Let's understand. You have seen the waves in the ocean, right? The waves of the ocean, sometimes they go high and sometimes they go low. Now, if you are on a boat or a ship, now the ship is actually sailing on the water. So, whenever the wave goes high, the ship will go high. Whenever the wave will go low, the ship will go low. Why? Because the ship is attached to the water. The ship is actually attached to the water. So, it completely takes the path of the water, the ship, because of the attachment. But just imagine if you are flying above the ocean. Now, no matter what are the high and low tides of the ocean, since you are flying above the ocean, you will be unaffected. Right? Why? Because you are not attached to the water. You are flying above it. You are not attached to it. Now, since you are not attached to this, you are free. You see? So that is where the problem comes, dear devotees. So just like the ship is constantly attached and it takes away the path of the ocean, high and low tides, if you simply fly above the ocean, you will be disconnected, you will be unaffected by these high and low tides of the material world, this material ocean. So you will become nirdvando. What is causing that dvandva? The attachment is causing that dvandva. Your attachment to people, your attachment to things will constantly put you in high and low tides. Sometimes happiness, sometimes distress. Kabhi khushi, kabhi gham. This is the problem. Why? Because of attachment. So if you want to get rid of this, you have to fly. Now, when you're flying, ultimately the plane also has to land somewhere. Now, again, you don't have to land on the material ocean. Instead, you can think of flying high up to the spiritual world, and that is what is explained in this fifth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So you become detached, and by becoming detached, you will fly to the spiritual world. So this is the solution that Krishna is giving. Why should we simply not take this? Let's take this wonderful thing that Krishna is saying. Let's make our life perfect, right? So you should make your mind clean for this. If you have to become detached now, you have to make things very clear. Your mind needs to be very clear and pure. See, anything white is a sign of purity, right? Anything white, white color, white cloth, everything is sign of purity. It doesn't have any contamination. For example, why white cloth is so pure? It's because you see the cotton naturally is white, and then you take the cotton and then you make the cloth and then you produce it. Because it's a natural color of the cotton to be white, it gives a very natural feeling that yes, it's a sign of purity. The cotton is white, the thread is white, the cloth is white, and then you wear it, then you are also pure. You become pure gradually. It's not that simply by wearing white clothes you become pure, but I'm just saying that cotton is pure in nature. So right now our mind is like the cotton. It has to be like cotton. But what happens is, this mind is filled with so much of different colors now. Just like the white cotton, when it is mixed with different varieties of colors, it it creates different emotions. For example, red color cloth, it's a sign of passion. Black color cloth, it is another sign of uh, some tamoguna kind of a thing. Terrorists generally they wear this all black clothes and all those things. So every color has its own effect. It has its own influence on your mind. So similarly, our mind, which actually has to be like pure cotton white, is right now mixed with different colors of lust, greed, anger, envy, attachment, detachment, all these positive and negative attachments. So that is why we, the same person, behave differently in different situations. Our mind is impure, and all this impurity is causing the attachment. Constantly, there are so many these different colors of our mind which creates these attachments. So we have to purify and have a crystal clear, a pure white mind, which is possible by following the process of Krishna consciousness. That is what is Krishna. What is Krishna consciousness? Action in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada is saying karma yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. When you perform your actions for the pleasure of Krishna, then you can filter it out, all the dirty things from your mind. So that is very much possible. So what Krishna is saying here is you have to give kamya karma, that has to be given up. Kamya karma means that karma that which you perform for your own pleasure with some kama, with some desires, then those things have to be given up. So Krishna is saying na kankshati means work has to be done, but has to be done without the attachment for your results. So you see, there is so much that is covered in this particular shloka. So you can become a nitya sannyasi, being a grahastha, being a brahmachari, being whatever situation, man or woman, any material condition you might be, you can become a nitya sannyasi when you actually give up dvesha and you give up desires, na kankshati. So you know now where is the attachment coming from. If you're attached to something or if you're attached to somebody, you should know the root cause is my own sense gratification. So am I able to give up my sense gratification? That can I do sannyasa of these sense gratification? Yes, it is possible. It is possible when you actually work for Krishna. Detachment is not so easy, but detachment comes when you positively get attached to Krishna. When you get attached to Krishna, detachment becomes very easy. And it's a practical experience of every devotee. Every devotee who comes to ISKCON, generally when he starts following the process, it's not that all of a sudden he has become detached. No. Detachment takes its own phase, many decades, many years. But that is happening gradually as you are getting attached to Krishna. The more you get attached to Krishna, the more you get detached from the material things and material people. So our attachment to Krishna is the focus. In Krishna consciousness, we focus only on giving pleasure to Krishna. And by doing so, by getting attached to Krishna, we will become detached from material things. Simply giving up material things is not so easy. Never it's going to be easy. Unless you get attached to Krishna, there is no question of detachment. Only Krishna can give us that detachment from material things. Because what Krishna has said in the second chapter, Rasovarjam Rasopyasya. Rasovarjam Rasopyasya means only when you get a higher taste, you give up the lower taste. Right? So only when you get the higher taste of being with Krishna, chanting his holy name, listening to Bhagavad Gita, that is when the lower taste of all these material sense enjoyments will gradually go. Right? So this is what Krishna has very beautifully explained in this third shloka. So let's go to the next verse now. So let's see who is there. So I call Uma Kumar again. So Uma Kumar, you can unmute yourself and let's
Yes,
chant the
Guruji.
next verse. So that is verse number 4.
Yes, Guruji.
So this verse is quite straightforward. So please repeat. Sankhya Yoga Pratak Balaha
Sankhya Yogo Pratak Balaha
Pravadanti na Panditaha
Pravadanti na
Panditaha
Panditaha
Ekam Apyastita Samya
Ekam
Ekam
Apyatasya
Ubayor Vindate Phalam.
Ubayo Vindate Phalam.
Wonderful. So please read the translation by yourself.
Only the only the ignorant speak of karma yoga and devotional services as being different from the analysis study of the material world. Those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the results of
Yes.
both.
Yes. Thank you. So
Hare Krishna Guruji.
thank you. Thank you very much. So it is a very straightforward thing. Krishna has explained that how these both are actually ubhayor. Both of them are actually the same, but there are some childish people, some ignorant people, pritak balaha. They are the ones who think that these two processes are different. So the analytical study of this material world called Sankhya, the Sankhya Yoga, which we are going to describe and understand in the next chapter more in detail. So these are the people who think that, these two processes are different and they're going to give the different results. But that is not true. But Krishna says here, although they are different, but a person who even sticks to one of these processes of karma yoga or transcendental working in Krishna consciousness, both will give the ultimate result. So this is what Krishna has to say in this particular verse. So it's quite straightforward. So there is nothing much to say, but we can go to the next verse and see what Krishna is going to say in the next verse, that is verse number 5. So Achyutanji, you can unmute yourself and let's chant the fifth verse of this particular chapter 5. Maybe we can understand a little bit more here. So Achyutanji, this shloka is visible to you?
Yes, Guruji. Yes.
All right. So let's chant verse number 5. Yat Sankhe Prapyate Sthanam
Yat Sankhye Praptaye Snanam
Tad Yogairapi Gamyate
Tad Yogair Abhigamyate
Ekam Sankyam Cha Yogam Cha
Ekam Sankyam Cha Yogam Cha
Ya Pashyati Sapashyati.
Ya Pashyati Sa Pashyati.
Wonderful. Please read the translation.
One who knows that the position reached by means of renunciation can also be attained by works in devotional service, and who therefore sees that the path of works and the path of renunciation are one, sees things as they are.
Wonderful. Thank you so much,
Hare
Achyutanji.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, again, a very interesting shloka. So, one who knows that the position reached by means of renunciation can also be attained by the works of devotional service. So, Krishna is saying here that you can ultimately attain the result, the final result, even by acting in Krishna consciousness. But what did Krishna say in the second verse? He said that acting in devotion is easier. That's why the process of bhakti is very simple and very joyful. Whereas the other processes, although they give you the final result, the ultimate result, but they're quite troublesome. It's not so easy. But whereas bhakti process is so simple, because bhakti process involves eating, sleeping, dancing, singing. So everything is involved. So it's a very joyful and easy process. So bhakti yoga is very simple. So there is, like I told you, diversity in the processes, but the goal is uniform. So Krishna is saying you don't worry about the different varieties of activities each process has. The main thing is the goal is the same. So anybody who understands that by doing karma yoga or giving up the results of action, and then finally he has to do it with detachment, he can attain the same result as one who is naturally following bhakti yoga. When I say devotional service, or Prabhupada says acting in devotion, it means bhakti yoga in Krishna consciousness. So that is why the chapter name is also called Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. You see? So, what actually makes these things different, or why people think that these processes are different, is because they are preconceived ideas. Each one of us have certain ideas, we have certain perception about the world. So these preconceived notions of the world actually makes us understand the world in different way. So, what we can know actually depends on what we know. I repeat that again. What we can know actually depends on what we already know. Right? So, if you simply say to a villager, you go to a villager and then say, if your medulla oblongata fails to work, then you will collapse and you will die. This villager, he cannot make any sense out of it. He'll say, what medulla oblongata, what are you talking about? Now, this medulla oblongata is a portion in your brain. Now, he doesn't understand. Now, he cannot connect with anything. He has no reference point in his whole mind, in his knowledge bank about this medulla oblongata. So, when you talk about him, it really doesn't make any sense to this person. So similarly, if somebody comes and shows you an X-ray, actually we cannot make any sense of that X-ray. But a doctor, when he sees that X-ray, he can immediately say where is the problem, right? Why? That is because what we can know depends on what we already know. So many times, I had explained this previously also, that what is knowledge to us? Please understand, this is very careful. Maybe you should all carefully listen to this. What is knowledge? If you broadly speak and understand, knowledge is, I know that I know something, right? For example, I know that this chapter of Bhagavad Gita has 29 verses. So I know that I know something. So that is knowledge. And another type of knowledge is, I know that I don't know something. For example, rocket science. I don't know when is the next solar eclipse that is going to happen. So I know that I don't know when is the solar eclipse going to happen. So what is my knowledge? My knowledge is all about, I know something, I don't know something. So I know that I know something, I know that I don't know something is what actually contributes to my knowledge bank. But most people don't know that they don't know something. That means they don't know that they don't know something. That's the region where it is called as ignorance. So, what is ignorance? Ignorance means they don't know that they don't know something. So, please analyze this carefully. I know I have confused a little bit, but you can repeat this and understand. What is my knowledge? My knowledge is all about, I know that I know something, and I know that I don't know something. This is what is knowledge. I know that I don't know what is beyond this wall. I don't know, right? That is also knowledge. But what is not knowledge? What is ignorance? That is, I don't know that I don't know something. And because I don't have any reference, like the villager, when you talk to him about the medulla oblongata, he has no reference in his mind. Many times when we talk about spirit soul, when you talk about the multi-universes and something like that, people have no reference point. So that is why, because they don't have any pre-existing knowledge about that, it's very difficult for them to accept things. So what Bhagavad Gita does is it actually gives you a variety of knowledge, and where if you just understand Bhagavad Gita, it gives you reference points. It gives you a lot of reference points to many things that is happening in this world, happening within you. So that is why Bhagavad Gita is so essential. So now when you start understanding Bhagavad Gita and get these reference points about your own life, and then you read Srimad Bhagavatam, all these reference points will get elaborated with different pastimes of the devotees. You see? So this is what we need to get reference points to understand things. So why people actually they misunderstand these two processes of karma yoga and bhakti yoga is because they don't have certain reference points about one other process, the other process. And because they don't have these reference points, we say, oh, this is a different process, this is a different process. But the ultimate goal is the same. So Krishna is saying, this is what will lead you to the same goal. Don't worry, oh Arjuna. So what we are supposed to do is understand Bhagavad Gita properly and get reference points of different varieties of knowledge in your life so that you can lead a very good life, a happy life, right? So you see, this is what is happening here. There are a lot of things going on. So I hope certain things are clarified to you. So if you have any questions, we have 10 more minutes. Let's open for Q&A. So we have discussed the first 5 verses of the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So we have covered some very interesting shlokas, and we have seen that how Arjuna has this confusion about which is the best process, whether giving up karma or actually performing karma in devotion. And then we have understood clearly that walking in devotion is much better. So Krishna is going to further elaborate on all these different things, and we will understand more concepts in the next session. But before we end, let's see if you have any questions. Let me see on YouTube as well if there are devotees who have any questions here. So we have Deepak from Udan classes. Thank you so much, Deepak, for joining. Thank you for being here. So Achutanji, Hinamataji, Uma Kumar, you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Let's have some questions. And also, dear devotees on YouTube, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask questions. And here, live audience, you can also ask questions if you have any. Go ahead and ask if you have any questions so that it will benefit everyone. So we have understood these 5 shlokas today, and we will continue from the 6th shloka next Sunday. So any questions, please? Any questions that you have? Yes.
Even if we are following the path of devotion, initially we are doing so to satisfy our sense gratification. Right?
Okay.
So then how does that, even that is attachment. Devotion is also attachment. Because initially we are not following the path of devotion just in the knowledge of, we are not that pure to.
Correct. So the question here is, Girishma is saying that initially when you follow the process of Bhakti Yoga, even in the process of performing action with devotion, initially it's all about my pleasure. So what did I say about attachment? Attachment means that which gives you pleasure, sense gratification, then that causes attachment, right? So initially, a neophyte devotee, when he starts coming to Krishna consciousness, initially it is like, oh, I like the prasadam. Oh, it's so tasty. Now, what's happening is it is for his sense enjoyment. I like the prasadam. I want to enjoy this beautiful deities. Oh, so beautiful decoration. It gives so much pleasure to me by seeing these deities. When I chant this holy name, it gives pleasure to me. So initially, it is all for my sense gratification. But now what's happening with this sense gratification of yours, you're developing an attachment to the spiritual process. You're getting attached to Krishna, either in the form of prasadam, either in the form of the spiritual music, or either in the form of the beautiful deities. You are somehow getting connected with Krishna. And now what's happening is, because Krishna is spiritual, gradually your focus will shift from my sense enjoyment to no, I have to give enjoyment to Krishna. This process will begin when you start serving Krishna. Because when you eat prasadam, when you have nice deities, you enjoy the kirtan, gradually you think, oh, let me also do some seva. When you start doing seva, then what is happening? The process of giving back is beginning. And this process of giving back to Krishna will lead you to spiritual process. So she has a follow-up question. Let's see.
So when we have to give something, we have to renounce something. We have to renounce our work here. So again, it is reaching the goal in by renunciation, not
Yes,
by devotion of work.
correct. So anytime when we are doing any renunciation, please understand, we renounce something only we get something higher. For example, you renounce a job which gives you salary of 20,000 only when you get a job which pays you 50,000. You give up the job of 50,000 only when you get a job of 1 lakh rupees. You renounce this job. When do you renounce? When you're getting something higher. So it's all about priorities. So when you actually renounce something, don't think it is all simply renunciation. When you come in Krishna consciousness, you're actually getting the true happiness. So what you're renouncing is lower happiness. So it's a great deal. When you are getting higher happiness, why should I get attached to these lower happinesses? Right? So that is why renunciation becomes easy in the process of devotion. In the process of devotion, it becomes easy because you're getting rasovarjam rasopyasya. You're getting a higher taste. Only when you get a higher taste, you can renounce. Only when you get a job of 1 lakh rupees, you can announce 20,000 rupees job, right? So that is what it happens to you. Just like when an iron is kept constantly in the fire, the iron will acquire the properties of the fire. It will act like fire, the iron rod also. Similarly, by constantly being in touch with prasadam, in constant with Krishna, in the form of his names, in the form of his deities, you're actually becoming spiritual, and these detachments will develop, attachments will reduce gradually. So that is why positive attachments, especially to Krishna, is most essential for any spiritual practitioner. So this is one question. So dear devotees, any other question that you can think of, you can either unmute yourself or you can type. We have a few more minutes, so you can ask one more question, so that will be really nice. So even on YouTube, if you are listening to this, you can leave your comments, you can ask a question. So that will be nice. And here also on StreamYard, you can think of some questions, so that it will be nice to take a 1 or 2 questions, right? Any more questions? Any question that you want to ask? So please purify the mind. It's extremely important. And see where are the attachments. What is the activity for all of you? The activity for this week is you make a list of all the people that you love and all the people that you hate, and you see, analyze what is happening with you in your own mind. So we have a question from Chandanji. He says that let me show that. So he says that, is there any type of work specified in the Bhagavad Gita which we can do or cannot do in our normal day lives? Specified in the Bhagavad Gita which we can do or cannot do in our normal day lives. So what I understand from this question is that, Vinodji, you're trying to say that, is there anything that Krishna is saying, that anything specified that we should do and we should not do? Yes, definitely. Actually, Krishna, now he's talking about the broad principles in the first few chapters, but later on also there are so many shlokas that we will see Krishna is talking about eating in the 17th chapter, what we should eat and what we should not eat. Krishna is talking about sleeping, how to sleep, how a yogi sleeps, how the materialists sleep. So these are our daily activities. And how do we work? Like you're saying, any type of work specified. So, like Krishna in the previous chapter had specifically talked about the Varnashrama. So which is right now missing. If you can know your proper varna and your proper ashrama, it becomes very easy for a person to get the specific work. So what Krishna has told about work is actually, if you can identify your varna and ashrama, specifically your varna, and then what happens is, if you act according to your varna, it becomes a very natural thing for you to work. So that is missing. So what Krishna had given again previously is the broad principles: identify your varna and act according to your varna. Perform work as per your varna. So that we have discussed elaborately in the previous chapters, right? In the previous sessions. So now the day-to-day activities that we are doing for eating, sleeping, yes, Krishna has definitely explained those principles in the upcoming future, that how a yogi behaves, how a devotee behaves, and a non-devotee behaves. What are the qualities of the devotee, and he has to imbibe those qualities. And what are the qualities of demoniac people? So this differentiates. When you understand these qualities of a devotee and a non-devotee, then you know how to act. You know very clearly, oh, this is how I should not act. How should I act? So all these we are discussing is actually relating, is coming to the same point, to help you in a day-to-day life. How should I become free from, like today, attachment we spoke about? It's very practical thing. Can we think of this getting detached every day? You can think. Actually, we should start thinking about it. If you clearly understand that attachment is something that we have right now, and if you can work in such a way that every activity of yours on a day-to-day basis will help you get detached, what a wonderful thing it is. Just imagine, every activity that you do is actually for the pleasure of Krishna. You're gradually getting detached from all the materialistic things. It happens. So this is the process that we need to follow. But definitely, the more details will come, like specific details, if you're asking, like sleeping, eating, work, all those things will come when we discuss the future chapters. So Vinod is saying, looking forward for all that. Yes, definitely. There are so many things we can discuss. But specifically, if you have any question, you can always feel free to call me, and you can also leave a message. We can also take questions offline. So anybody who is listening to this, all of you who are listening to this, you can anytime get connected with me, leave your comments on YouTube, or you can personally message me on WhatsApp and then get connected, and we can discuss these questions even offline, so that way it can be more interactive, because not everything I'll be able to explain in this 1.5 hour sessions. So it is good that if you need more clarity on certain things, then we can take them offline. So with this today, we will end the session, and we have started chapter 5, and let's continue chapter 5 in the next session next Sunday. And until then, please take care. So all of you stay safe, and Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guruji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna.